There's someone you hate. Maybe it's an ex who betrayed you. Maybe it's someone who got the promotion you deserved. Maybe it's a family member who's hurt you repeatedly. Maybe it's someone online you've never even met. And the rational part of your brain knows that holding on to this hatred is hurting you more than them. You know you should let it go, move on, be the bigger person. But you can't. And sometimes you don't even want to, because the hate feels good. It feels righteous. It gives you energy, purpose, something to focus on when everything else feels uncertain. In the next 25 minutes, we're diving into one of the most taboo emotions in psychology. Why hatred exists, what it does to your brain, why it's so addictive, and why letting go feels impossible even when you know it's destroying you. This isn't about becoming a better person. This is about understanding the neurochemistry and psychology that makes hate one of the most powerful and misunderstood emotions humans experience. Let's stop pretending hate doesn't exist and start understanding why it controls you. Welcome back to Psychopath, where we decode your mind. If you're ready to confront the emotion nobody wants to admit they feel, hit subscribe because this gets brutally honest. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Hate is normal. It's not a moral failing. It's not evidence that you're a bad person. It's a fundamental human emotion that evolved for specific survival purposes. For most of human history, identifying threats and responding with intense negative emotion kept you alive. The person who wronged your tribe, the rival group competing for resources, the individual who violated social norms and endangered the group, hating them served a function. It motivated you to protect yourself, your family, your community. It created clear boundaries between us and them, safe and dangerous, trustworthy and threat. Your brain developed neural pathways specifically designed to encode and maintain intense negative associations with people or groups that posed danger. That's what hate is at its core. A threat detection and response system cranked up to maximum intensity. But here's where it gets complicated in the modern world. Your brain still has those ancient mechanisms, but the threats have changed. You're not hating someone because they're trying to kill you or steal your food. You're hating them because they cheated on you, because they got the success you wanted, because they hold political views you find abhorrent, because they remind you of your own failures or insecurities. The intensity of the emotion hasn't changed, but the context has. And that mismatch creates problems. Your brain is treating a social slight or ideological disagreement with the same neural intensity it would treat a life-threatening enemy. That's why hate feels so consuming, so all-encompassing. Your threat detection system is in overdrive, and it won't shut off. Now let's talk about the neuroscience of hate because it's fascinating and disturbing. Brain imaging studies using functional MRI showed that when people view images of someone they hate, specific brain regions activate. The medial frontal cortex, which is involved in judgment and planning. The right putamen, which is associated with contempt and disgust. The insula, which processes visceral emotions. But here's what's most interesting. The circuits involved in hate significantly overlap with the circuits involved in romantic love. Both emotions activate the putamen and insula. Both involve intense focus on another person. Both create obsessive thinking patterns. The difference: hate deactivates the circuits responsible for judgment and rational thought. When you're in love, you're less critical of the person. When you hate someone, you're also less critical, but in the opposite direction. You see only their flaws, only their worst moments, only the evidence that confirms they're terrible. your brain enters a state of confirmation bias on steroids. Here's where it gets darker. Hate feels good. And that's what makes it so addictive. When you think about the person you hate, when you fantasize about their downfall, when you see them fail or suffer, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in pleasure, reward, and motivation. Evolutionary psychologists believe this reward response exists because punishing wrongdoers and seeing justice served increased group cohesion and survival. But in your individual brain, it creates a reinforcement loop. Hate equals dopamine hit. Dopamine hit equals motivation to keep hating. You're literally addicted to the feeling. And just like any addiction, you need increasing doses. The hatred intensifies over time. What started as anger or disappointment metastasizes into consuming rage. You start seeking out information that confirms how terrible this person is. You ruminate obsessively. You create elaborate revenge fantasies. And every time you do, your brain rewards you. Let me tell you about the phenomenon psychologists call the rehearsal effect. When you repeatedly think about someone you hate, when you replay the moments they hurt you, when you imagine confrontations or revenge scenarios, you're not just remembering. You're actively strengthening those neural pathways. Each rehearsal makes the memory more vivid, more emotionally charged, more central to your identity. Neuroscience research shows that memories aren't static recordings. They're reconstructed every time you recall them, and each reconstruction can intensify the emotional content. So the more you think about why you hate someone, the more reasons you find to hate them. Your brain is literally creating and reinforcing a hate narrative that becomes more extreme over time. And the worst part, you believe this narrative is objective reality. You're not obsessing. You're justifiably angry. You're not addicted to hating them. They genuinely deserve it. Now let's discuss the different types of hate, because not all hate is the same. Personal hate is directed at specific individuals who've wronged you. This is the ex who cheated, the friend who betrayed you, the boss who abused their power. This hate is rooted in actual experience and often legitimate grievance. Then there's tribal hate, directed at groups. Political opponents, rival sports teams, people of different religions or nationalities. This hate is often learned, inherited from your social environment, and reinforced by identity and belonging needs. Your brain is wired for in-group preference and out-group suspicion. Tribal hate exploits this by creating an us versus them narrative where the other side is you and just wrong. They're evil, subhuman, threatening your way of life. This is the hate that fuels wars, genocide, and systemic oppression. And finally, there's projection hate, where you hate in others what you can't accept in yourself. The characteristics, behaviors, or qualities you're ashamed of in yourself, you see them in others and hate them for it. This is often unconscious, which makes it particularly insidious. Here's a real-world example that illustrates how hate develops and maintains itself. Marcus worked at a startup where he was promised equity and a leadership role. For 3 years, he worked 80-hour weeks, sacrificed his personal life, gave everything to this company. Then the founders sold the company, and Marcus discovered they'd been lying about his equity. He got nothing while they made millions. The initial response was shock, then anger, which is completely justified. But over time, the anger transformed into hate. Marcus spent hours daily on social media tracking the founders' success. He joined forums to talk about how terrible they were. He fantasized about exposing them publicly, ruining their reputations. 5 years later, long after he'd moved to a better job, he was still consumed by hatred. It affected his new relationships because he couldn't trust anyone. It impacted his mental health, leading to chronic stress, insomnia, and depression. The founders had moved on with their lives. They probably didn't think about Marcus at all, but Marcus was allowing them to occupy space in his mind rent-free, poisoning his present because of the past. That's what chronic hate does. It keeps you tethered to the person or event that hurt you, long after any practical purpose is served. Let's talk about why hate is so hard to let go of. First, there's the sunk cost fallacy. You've invested so much emotional energy into hating this person that letting go feels like admitting you wasted that energy. If you stop hating them, what was it all for? Second, there's identity fusion. Your hatred has become part of who you are. You're the person who was betrayed, who was wronged, who has this enemy. Letting go of the hate means letting go of part of your identity, which creates an existential threat. Third, there's the justice gap. You want them to suffer proportionally to how they made you suffer, but often they don't. They move on, they thrive, they face no consequences, and that perceived injustice keeps the hate alive. Your brain can't close the loop. Fourth, there's the vulnerability paradox. Hate makes you feel powerful. Letting go makes you feel vulnerable, like you're opening yourself up to being hurt again. So you maintain the hate as emotional armor. Here's something most people don't realize. Hate and love are not opposites. The opposite of both is indifference. When you hate someone, you're still deeply emotionally invested in them. They still have power over you. They still occupy mental space. True letting go isn't replacing hate with love or forgiveness. It's replacing hate with indifference, with not caring, with psychological detachment. And that's incredibly difficult because your brain has been trained to see this person as significant, whether positively or negatively. Becoming indifferent requires retraining those neural pathways, and that takes time and deliberate effort. Now let's address the moral dimension, because this is where it gets complicated. Is all hate bad? Are there times when hate is justified, even necessary? Philosophers and psychologists debate this. Some argue that hate directed at evil, at injustice, at oppression, is not only justified but morally required. If you don't hate the abuser, aren't you complicit? If you don't hate the dictator, aren't you apathetic to suffering? This is called righteous anger or moral hatred, and it's seen as a motivating force for social change. But here's the nuance. Even justified anger at evil can become toxic if it consumes you, if it prevents you from effective action, if it turns into dehumanization. The line between righteous anger and destructive hate is thin, and it's easy to cross without realizing it. You can oppose injustice without letting hatred poison your own well-being. You can hold people accountable without obsessing over their suffering. Let me share the psychology of forgiveness because it's often misunderstood. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you have to reconcile or allow them back into your life. Forgiveness, from a psychological perspective, is releasing the emotional attachment to the wrong. It's a decision to stop allowing the past to control your present. Research shows that forgiveness is associated with lower blood pressure, reduced anxiety and depression, improved heart health, and better overall psychological well-being. But here's the critical part. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. You're not letting them off the hook. You're releasing yourself from the prison of hatred. And forgiveness is a process, not a one-time event. It requires repeated conscious effort to redirect your thoughts when they spiral into hate. Here's the practical framework for letting go of hate. Step 1. Acknowledge it. Stop pretending you don't hate them. Stop feeling guilty about it. The hate exists. That's okay. You're human. Step 2. Understand its function. What is the hate protecting you from? What need is it meeting? Often, hate protects you from feeling vulnerable, powerless, or hurt. It gives you a sense of control in a situation where you had none. Step 3. Separate the person from the behavior. You can hate what they did without hating their entire existence. This creates psychological space. Step 4. Grieve what you lost. Often, hate is covering profound grief. The loss of trust, the loss of a relationship, the loss of what could have been. Allow yourself to feel that grief without judgment. Step 5. Redirect the energy. Hate is intense energy. Channel it into something constructive. Create something. Build something. Help someone. Transform the destructive energy into generative action. Step 6. Practice cognitive diffusion. This is a technique from acceptance and commitment therapy where you observe your hateful thoughts without believing them. When you think, "I hate them," you reframe it as, "I'm having the thought that I hate them." This creates distance between you and the thought. It reminds you that thoughts are mental events, not absolute truths. Step 7. Limit exposure. Stop stalking their social media. Stop bringing them up in conversation. Stop seeking information about them. Every exposure reactivates the neural pathways. You're maintaining the addiction. Step 8. Seek professional help if needed. Chronic hate that's impacting your mental health, relationships, or quality of life requires therapeutic intervention. A good therapist can help you process the underlying trauma and develop healthier coping mechanisms. Here's something important to understand about the timeline. Letting go of hate doesn't happen overnight. Research suggests it takes an average of 18 months to 2 years to fully process and release intense hatred. And that's with active therapeutic work. Without intervention, hate can persist for decades. There are people carrying hatreds from childhood, from divorces 20 years ago, from workplace conflicts that ended a generation ago. The hate becomes a chronic condition, like diabetes or hypertension, requiring ongoing management. And just like those conditions, untreated hate has serious health consequences. Chronic stress from sustained hatred increases cortisol levels, weakens immune function, raises blood pressure, contributes to heart disease, and accelerates aging. You're literally shortening your life to maintain hatred for someone who probably isn't thinking about you. Let's discuss the societal dimension, because hate at scale is what creates atrocities. The psychology of individual hate scales up to become tribalism, nationalism, racism, religious extremism. It starts with in-group preference and out-group suspicion, both of which are evolutionarily adaptive in small doses. But when amplified by propaganda, social media echo chambers, and charismatic leaders, it becomes dehumanization. The other side isn't just wrong, they're less than human. And once you dehumanize someone, violence against them becomes psychologically permissible. History is full of examples. The Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide, ethnic cleansings, religious wars. All of them required masses of people to hate other groups intensely enough to commit or tolerate atrocities. And the individuals participating often weren't monsters. They were ordinary people whose natural capacity for hate was exploited and directed. Understanding the psychology of individual hate is the first step to understanding and preventing hate at the societal level. Here's the final, uncomfortable truth. You will probably hate someone at some point in your life, if you don't already. You will be betrayed. You will be hurt. You will encounter people who genuinely cause harm. The question isn't whether you'll feel hate. The question is what you'll do with it. Will you let it consume you, define you, control your thoughts and actions for years? Or will you acknowledge it, understand it, and consciously work to release it? Will you allow the person who hurt you to continue hurting you through the prison of your own hatred? Or will you reclaim your mental and emotional energy for things that actually serve your well-being? Hate is a natural emotion. Chronic hate is a choice. A choice you're making, consciously or unconsciously. Every day you rehearse it. Every time you seek confirmation of how terrible they are. Every moment you spend fantasizing about their suffering instead of building your own life. So here's your challenge. Think about someone you hate. Don't lie to yourself. You know who it is. Now ask yourself honestly, is this hatred serving me? Is it protecting me from something? Or is it just poisoning my present? You don't have to forgive them today. You don't have to let it go right now. But acknowledge that the hate exists and that it's costing you something. That's the first step. And if this video made you uncomfortable, if it forced you to confront something you've been avoiding, good. That means you're ready to stop being controlled by an emotion that's supposed to serve you. The next video breaks down the neuroscience of forgiveness and how to actually release emotional pain. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember, hating someone doesn't hurt them. It hurts you, and you deserve better than that.